Chapter 6. The Children's House. It's morning when we get to the children's house. I'm asleep, and Chris wakes me. I get out of the jeep with Dog and Whitetail, and lots of children run up to see who I am. When they see Whitetail, they laugh. "Is that your supper?" one of the boys asks me. I have Whitetail very close to me and move back to the jeep. "Don't worry," says a woman who comes out of the house. "No one's going to eat your chicken." "I'm Dr. Nicky," she says. There are so many children here. They come from many villages, and all of them have stories like mine. That's why they're here. They don't have homes. "This is your new home," Chris tells me. "You'll be fine here." He says that he knows Dr. Nicky. He met her before in another country. He says that she is very kind and she will look after me. "Aren't you staying?" I ask him. "No, Jojo," he says. "I'm going to take photos of the fighting. It's my job, but I'll come back as soon as I can." "Goodbye, Jojo," he says, and then he drives away very quickly. Dr. Nicky shows me round the children's house. But it isn't just one house. There are many houses where people sleep and eat. And there's a big hospital for all the children who are hurt. There are lots of children here who are hurt. The house where I sleep is bigger than any house in my village. We all sleep in one big long room. Days go by, and other children come here. We all do lessons together, and we play football. Dog likes football too, but he always tries to eat the ball. It makes the small children laugh. The very small children are happy here because they don't understand what is happening in our country. All the other children are unhappy. I know that because they shout and cry in the night. No one sleeps quietly here. Dr. Nicky is the doctor here. She speaks our language very well and is very nice. She wears a white t-shirt with letters on it. "What are the letters for?" I ask her. "The letters are for Médecins Sans Frontières. That means Doctors Without Borders," she answers. I don't understand. My brother had a t-shirt with letters on it. Letters were the name of our country. "Is that where you come from?" I ask. I know that some countries are very big. I think that maybe her country is so big that it doesn't have any borders. Maybe it just has sea all around it. "A land without borders is a good place," I tell her. "You can be safe, and you won't be afraid of the people who live on the other side of the river." "I want to go to the country without borders," I tell her. Dr. Nicky smiles. "No, Jojo," she tells me. "It just means that I'm a doctor who will go anywhere. I will help people in any country." "Not the country on the other side of the river," I say. "You can't help them. They are very bad." "But there are children there too," says Dr. Nicky. "They aren't bad. I will go anywhere where there are children who need me." But I don't want to listen. I like Dr. Nicky. She has lots of children to look after, but she often talks to me. Many of the children are very ill. Some of the children are here because the men thought that they were dead, but they weren't dead. There is one boy here who says nothing. No one knows his name or where he comes from. We call him Red because he has a red t-shirt. Dr. Nicky asks me to talk to Red. I say, okay, but I don't really want to talk to him. Well, I do want to talk to Red because Dr. Nicky wants me to, but I don't want Red to tell me what he saw. I'm afraid I don't want to hear the things that are in his head. I think he's seen some very bad things. I think perhaps he was in his house when the men came. There are some things that make you want to stop talking, I tell Dr. Nicky. I know, Jojo, she says, but Red doesn't have to tell us what he saw. I just need to know his name and where he comes from. I need to know if he has a family somewhere. I'll talk to him, I say. So many quiet children, and Jojo who never stops talking, says Dr. Nicky. But she smiles at me, and I know she likes me. I go outside, and Dog follows me. Red isn't afraid of Dog, but he's afraid of people. I sit outside and talk to Red. I talk about my family, tell him stories. I tell him a story about when my mother had a new dress and how it got wet in the rain. She put it near the fire to dry, and a bit of wood fell out of the fire and burned it. Then I tell Red a story about the time my brother went into the fields with the goats, but he started to read a book, and the goats ran away. I had a goat, Red says. Did your goat have a name? I ask him. Red closes his eyes. Our goats all had names, I tell him. But then I stop. I don't want to think about our goats. The men took them away. My goat was... Red begins. But he never says what his goat was. He never says any other words. Only those words about the goat. I run to Dr. Nicky. Red told me he had a goat, I tell her. Well done, Jojo, says Dr. Nicky. That's a start. But it wasn't. It was the end. The next day Red walked out of the children's house. He walked down the road between the trees. Maybe he wanted to go home. Maybe he just wanted to go away. I don't know. But I never saw him again. After he left, Dr. Nicky looked very sad. But then she went back inside the hospital. There are so many sick children. Some of the children here say that Red stepped on a landmine after he left the children's house. There are lots of children here who have stepped on landmines. Most of them don't have any legs. Men have put landmines into fields and under the roads, all the places that children go. I didn't know about landmines, but the other children tell me about them. Landmines sit in the ground, and when you stand on them, bang, you die, or you get very badly hurt. Often you lose your legs. Dr. Nicky says that there are thousands and thousands of landmines in our country. When the fighting stops, there will be landmines there, so children will be hurt. I think about this at night. I also think that the fighting is getting closer. You can hear the guns and also bombs. They're louder than the guns. At night, I think of my home. It's a very long way away. I'm afraid of the bombs and the guns and the sounds they make. I don't want the fighting to come here. I want Chris to be here. I feel safe with him.